Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kayle.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and we like to talk about it. And today we are distracting ourselves from the nightmare that is existence with three great, epic single release tracks from Panopticon.
Three amazing songs that I had not heard before.
Absolute epics.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much different stuff that's happening all at once.
Yes. If you haven't listened to previous episodes where we talk about Panopticon, the quick rundown is Panopticon is the project of Austin Lunn, who is a Kentucky native that now lives in Minnesota.
Yes.
Where he has blended lots of different genres, but primarily he works with atmospheric black metal and bluegrass are the two big main ingredients, but the breadth of his discography, which is impressive considering he's only been, I think, making music under the name Panopticon since 2008.
2007.
2007.
I guess they released the first album in 2008.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The breadth of that discography over the last 12 years is quite incredible. The man does a lot of work.
Yeah.
He's a very busy guy.
He's only in his 30s, right?
Yeah. I think he's in his early 30s, somewhere around there. And he's, done a lot of lots of stuff that incorporates bits of melodic death metal and like post metal and some post rock type sounds in certain albums or in shoegaze and just all he's a very, what's the musical equivalent of being well-read?
Well-read. I would just be
well-versed.
Well-versed, prolific. I mean,
I enjoy looking at his year-end lists of like the albums he enjoyed.
Yeah.
And the thing that you'll notice on any Austin Lunn year-end list is it's like every fucking genre imaginable that's at least within the purview of like rock and metal and
even not. I mean,
and bits of country and folk and that sort of thing. He mostly works in those sort of spaces. I'm not really sure if he listens to much like hip hop or anything like that, but
maybe
it wouldn't surprise me if there was a couple different acts that he enjoys. But he seems like a man who has a wide variety of tastes, and he's also a very avid outdoorsman that
yes, he is.
Has a great influence on much of his work. But,
I'm just imagining him, outside doing some tracking or whatever, going through the woods, wearing his woodsman gear, and he's got his earbuds in, he's listening to Kid and Play.
Maybe
it's possible.
Who knows? But we'll talk a little bit more about that later, I suppose, about the three tracks we listened to, which, by the way, are the songs Hakan's song or Hakan's song. I'm not really actually sure how that's pronounced. I think it's Hakan. There's a symbol over the second A.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that denotes.
It might be the Norse version of yeah.
Then there's the Crescendo of Dusk that was released in 2019, and Rune's Heart that was released earlier this year. Great
songs.
Yes, all three great songs, great tracks. We'll talk more about that later. First, other than this is coming out in the future where things have happened. Hopefully, things have happened.
Perhaps,
but other than the national and worldwide traumas that have been inflicted as of late, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I got a new bracelet. My 14-year-old made me a bracelet that says it's got the letters KAH on it.
I can't remember what KAH stands for again.
Kill all humans.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I forgot about that. It's a cool bracelet.
It is pretty cool.
One half is just solid black and the other half is rainbow.
Yeah.
I think that sends a neat statement.
Yeah, this actually describes my 14-year-old a lot.
Yeah, I can see that.
They listen to a lot of hardcore, very dark punk.
Nice.
And have lots of rainbows.
I mean, hey, that's duality right there. Everybody's got to have those sides, right? I mean, you got me. I love, dark atmospheric black metal, and then I also love and I love kitties and cute puppies and those are the animals and stuff. Anytime I see anything vaguely relating to a dog being injured or dying, I break down into tears.
Sure.
And I keeping it in music tastes, I also love happy, comforting, beautiful, twinkly post rock and whatnot. Sure. So it's everybody's got to have their two sides. How was your Halloween?
It was good. We put out. We haven't talked since Halloween yet. No, we
have not.
We put out bags on the porch on a table. It said, "Happy Halloween, take one," and the bags just had candy in it.
Yeah.
Nobody took any bags from our porch. Yeah. What I had to do eventually in the night, sometimes I try to get 10,000 steps in a day. I got 8,000 steps to get. So I went out and I grabbed a bunch of bags. I'm doing my steps. You got kids? Mailbox, shove. Everybody got some.
Everybody in the neighborhood got candy in the mailbox.
Happy Halloween from the Bennetts.
I just thought maybe you grabbed some bags of candy and just walked around the neighborhood. And if you saw kids walking, you just chucked candy at them.
Just whipping at their face.
Take it!
Happy Halloween, damn it! But no, we actually did for the rest of the night. My 9-year-old and I sat up and we watched Beetlejuice. Nice. And I think the same night or maybe different night, we watched The House with the Clocks on the Wall or whatever.
Okay.
And then we just devoured the rest of the candy.
There you go. That's a good night.
In fact, I might actually be able to feel my pancreas. Like consciously, I'm aware of it.
That's probably not good.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't think that's supposed to happen. I don't think you're supposed to notice that it's there.
Right.
I think it's just supposed to do its thing until it decides that it wants to kill you.
Yeah. Right. Check it. I can flex it. There, I flexed.
Don't flex your pancreas.
I flexed my pancreas.
What does the pancreas do again?
It makes insulin and stuff like that.
Okay, that's what it does. I was getting it confused with the appendix that vaguely does something relating to bile, but is it's completely unnecessary.
It's mostly vestigial.
It secretes a small amount of digestive chemical, but it is not necessary in the slightest.
It's generally the opposite end of your body from the glossary.
Mm-hmm.
And the bibliography is usually next to the appendix.
Isn't a glossary usually
at the end? The back? Yeah,
a glossary is usually in the end.
So no, it'd be right there. It'd be the foreword, I suppose.
The foreword, the table of contents. Yeah. Because usually appendix, index, glossary, those are all at the end.
Sure. By the way, if you're not catching on books.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, right.
If you don't know how books work. I remember spending a lot of time as a young man after having read The Lord of the Rings, spending a long time reading all of the appendices because I guess that's not even my copy of The Lord of the Rings. It's actually my mom's copy of The Lord of the Rings that I have here still that really needs to be rebound, actually. Not that I've read it all that much. Mm-hmm. What? Well, we're back. We were talking about Lord of the Rings. My board is doing fucking weird shit, and it's pissing me off.
I feel like this is not the first weird shit it's done. I feel like the headphone issue.
It's done plenty of weird things. It's an old board that's probably just been on too much.
Right.
And it's had phantom power running for most of that time because these mics use phantoms. So I don't know. I don't know enough about electronics, but anyway.
What you need to do is, because it's probably just gotten hot and been hot for so long, just unplug it and put it in the
fridge. Yeah, there we go.
Exactly.
People would do shit like that with their Xboxes.
Right.
Because the early Xbox 360s would have huge overheating problems. And what they would do is they would get a wet towel and wrap it around their Xbox.
Around their electronics?
Well, it's not like a sopping wet towel, but not something that's going to soak. Because it's got a hard plastic shell that's between that and any of the sensitive bits.
Yeah.
I don't remember how well or if that even really worked at all, but we were talking. This was 10 minutes ago.
that
we were talking about the Lord of the Rings.
And this is the week where time is eternity.
Yeah.
So 10 minutes. 10 minutes in the first week of November is like I don't know, 10 years.
Yeah, something like that. So
Lord of the Rings, you got your mother's book.
Yeah, it probably needs to be rebound at some point, or I just need to get a different copy. It's not like it's like a important historical copy of the Lord of the Rings. It's just that it's
old.
It's a little old, and the spine is worn out. Also, the spine is worn out because it's all 3 books
in
one volume.
Really?
So it's
is it a hardback?
Yeah, it's a hardcover, and it's all 3 in one. So
nice.
That spine has had a lot of work to do.
It's done a lot of bending.
Yeah. I remember reading a lot of that because, I didn't know the Silmarillion existed. So that was how I got the histories of Middle Earth. And that's where to this day, that I believe, like the appendices to the Lord of the Rings, is where the vast majority of the information about the dwarves is found.
Sure.
Especially like anything in the Third Age, because they don't really do jack shit in the First Age.
Did I tell you I started rereading a fantasy book series I read first time when I was in my early 20s?
I think you did, but I don't remember what it was.
Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn by Tad Williams.
You've mentioned it.
It's a
I'm
trilogy.
Not familiar with it, though.
Which makes me happy because a lot of books. I love this book. This was great. How many more books? Oh, 9 of them. Really?
There's how many books in this series?
Yeah, but yeah,
it's like I want to start reading the Discworld series. That should be an easy task.
Nope. It's not. No, this one is great, and it's a lot like. I mean, it's very standard, if you will.
It's a very generic fantasy.
It's a very generic fantasy, but very well written. I mean, it's like he said, look, I know, I'm well aware that what we're doing here is breaking no barriers.
Yeah.
It's digging no new ground. I'm just going to make great characters you're going to like. And it's going to be, it's, the elves were pushed out of the homeland by the humans coming in.
It's the tropes. It's all the tropes.
Is an Isgrimnir as a main character. He's one of the Nordic characters that came in, and they had iron, and iron is deadly to elves. And
I'm not very familiar at all, I guess, with the works of Patrick Rothfuss, but that's kind of what I understand to be true about him as well, is that it's a relatively generic fantasy world.
Sure.
But it's you like the characters. Although I've heard a lot of people claim that the main character of those books is very much a Gary Sue.
Gary Sue.
Yeah. Not a Mary Sue, a Gary Sue.
Sure.
Who is like extremely good at everything. But he's also kind of an asshole, so I guess it makes up for it or something like that. Unlike a similar criticism of the Dreist novels by R.A. Salvatore. He's unapologetically a Gary Sue. Anyhow. What else? I didn't do anything on Halloween. I think I woke up. I was hungover because I had a bottle of gin.
Yeah.
And some tonic, and was just drinking a lot on Friday night. Woke up, I was hungover.
By yourself?
Yeah.
All right.
It's the only time I drink with people is when you're here.
All right.
And besides, it's, I didn't like to drink around other people besides you.
Yeah.
Besides my immediate circle of friends, I've never liked going to bars or public settings to drink. I like most of the time it's been like, oh, we're just gonna have a couple friends over and watch a bad movie. Like that's been most of it. But I woke up on Saturday, had a hangover, and just like sat in my chair and listened to Mirror Reaper because I was like, hey, it's Halloween, let's get spooky. Fuck it,
dude. And I had a sandwich today.
You had a sandwich? Yeah, what kind of sandwich you had?
I had the Italian melt. It was the
gabagool on.
Yeah, there was gabagool.
Yeah, the gabagool.
Oh man, the gabagool.
Why is this a joke between us now?
I don't know.
Neither of us have watched Sopranos.
No, but we've both been aware of the idea that this is said among Italian Americans on the East Coast,
specifically in New Jersey,
that they want to eat something called gabagool.
They've bastardized the word so
Capicola.
Severely.
It's what it is.
Gabagool.
It's Capicola.
Anyway, I haven't done anything since then except just try and not look at anything. Just try and not look at. I can, for the first time, because I get anxious and upset about things regularly. But for the first time, I open up, some sort of social app and see something related to what's going on in the world. And I can physically feel my heart rate increasing and the levels of cortisol in my blood jumping up. Like I can feel my blood pressure spiking.
I know I have an anger issue. I have an anger. I get extremely violently angry, but every time I do, I do the thing that I do best. Is I tamp it down to the deep depths of my soul.
You're a Midwestern man.
I'm a Midwestern man. And I got my family over. The problem is that it boils. It bubbles.
Yeah.
I'll be sitting there, I'll read a thing on the Twitter about something in politics.
Yeah.
And my face will make this sort of twisted look. And one eye will go the other direction. One will go not the other direction. My face will turn blue. And it'll look like, and it's been described by my wife as, you look like you're going to murder all of us. When you
Please
that face.
Stop looking at all of these things.
Yeah, well, and that's what I need to tell her again. A reminder. I was like, I'm not angry at you. I love you. I love the kids. I love our cats. I love our house. The love is all here. But when I read what this fucking guy on Twitter said, and you see that on my face, it is not at you. I'm not going to get you. I'm mad at this guy, and it's stupid. And I'll get it.
At the very least, that's your problem. At the very least, the problem is not that you're constantly incredibly angry at your family.
No.
If you're going to be angry about something, at least you're angry about that.
Yeah, I'm angry about it.
But
what some asshole said on the internet.
Yeah. I guess the good news related to election stuff, things that we know as of the recording of this episode is that 2 neighboring states have legalized recreational marijuana.
To the south and to the west.
Yeah, Montana and South Dakota. Good job, guys. And North Dakota, good job not getting it on the ballot this year.
So are we going to do a podcast from Bozeman?
Maybe. But in Oregon, legalizing therapeutic psilocybin. Or is it just magic mushrooms in general that they legalized?
In Oregon, they fucking legalized all of it.
Well, they didn't legalize hard drugs.
But they decriminalized.
They decriminalized
small amounts of meth,
small
cocaine,
amounts of hard drugs,
and psilocybin. Shrooms.
I think the shrooms thing though was legalization, like in like a. I can't remember the exact context of it, but it's less of it instead of just being decriminalized. I think it's like
it's fine. You can have
more legal than it was, because in a lot of states, as I understand, the way it's always been with magic mushrooms is it's not illegal to have the spores.
No, the spores are fine.
Yeah, it's not illegal to have the spores, and I don't know if it's even illegal to have the mushrooms. It's just illegal to prepare them to be consumed as a drug.
Yeah, and don't get us wrong here. I know it's been a thing. Well, I almost ordered some spores once. I was going to do it. I was going to make a batch, and then I realized that it's not illegal to have the spores or transport the spores or buy the spores. That's fine, but it's also not beyond the people who are in the Drug Enforcement Agency to monitor who buys the spores.
Yes.
So they're going to know you got them, and they're going to know just give them a week.
Let's go knock on his door in a week and see if we can find probable cause.
Sure. But, they did studies recently, and they've been doing a lot all along. And recently they realized that it counters depression.
Yeah, that psilocybin is like multiple times more effective than most antidepressants.
Yeah, just take
market.
2 doses, and it's like a permanent effect.
Yeah, well, because it, like a lot of hallucinogens, it like, as I understand, permanently alters your brain chemistry.
Rewires the chemicals in your brain.
That's what people have said for a very long time about LSD. It's just that the effects of that rewiring with LSD are perhaps a bit more significant and perhaps not entirely preferable. At least when considering the amount of acid that people who do a lot of acid tend to consume.
I mean, I've done my share. I've enjoyed it almost every. There's maybe twice where I've done acid where the situation was bad.
Yeah.
Therefore, my trip was bad.
Mm-hmm.
I got in a fight with my I've been married before, my first wife.
Yeah.
We got in a big fight, and one of my friend's house, and we got in a fight, and I stomped out, and I said, I'll go over to my friend's house, and here, have a beer. Also, acid. And so
you were not in the right headspace.
I was
for that.
not in the right headspace. So everybody's like, oh, wow, we're coming down. We're done. We're going to bed. And it's like, oh, shit. So I'm going to be frying on acid alone in your goddamn living room, hearing every noise outside, being my pregnant wife pissed off at me again. Oh, this is going to be a terrible night.
The 20s.
Yeah.
The youth of OJ.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting stuff.
It was over 25 years ago.
Interesting stuff going on in the world. Speaking of interesting stuff, let's talk about Panopticon.
Let's do that.
So as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Panopticon is, for the most part, a one-man black metal project.
Mm-hmm.
The guy behind it all is Austin Lunn, born in Kentucky, now lives in Minnesota.
I get the feeling I know why he moved to Minnesota.
I think actually his wife is from Minnesota.
His wife is from Minnesota?
But also, I mean, heavy Norse culture related in Minnesota.
Also, I feel like he might have been looking for his Walden.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of nature available in Kentucky.
Sure, but there are 10,000 lakes in Minnesota.
That's a good point. Minnesota is kind of an outdoorsman's dream.
It is.
Beyond it, and it's less remote and dangerous than Alaska. I think if you're an outdoorsman, Minnesota is a very good place to be, especially if you're not really like much of a mountain climber necessarily.
Yeah, there are really a lot of mountains.
Yeah, like the Rocky Mountains and everything, also a great place to be for nature. But Minnesota is like I can go for a relaxing hike and not worry about getting mauled by a bear.
Right. There's some bears.
There's some black bears in Minnesota. Yeah. There's no grizzly bears in Minnesota.
You got moose.
There's some wolves.
Yeah.
Not very many, but
yeah. Vikings fans.
And there's angry Vikings fans stalking the woods. You have to fend them off.
Oh, God damn it. They lost again.
The power of disappointment is a dangerous thing. It's strong. Every fall and winter in Minnesota. Oh, God. Just looking at the waveform.
No, we got loud. It's fine. I'm sure it's...
This episode is going to piss me off when
when you edit it.
When I'm editing it. I don't know what the fuck the problem is. I don't get it.
I think we got loud.
We did get loud, but at least it's not like completely
it's not square. Yeah.
But that's all. We're fairly zoomed out, I think. So it's but
I'm always zoomed out now.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, so
Panopticon.
Been around for a while. Been one of my favorite bands here for about 2 years at this point. And brain no work.
Yeah, their music is fairly consistent. I mean, yeah. You know what you're gonna get, and what you're gonna get is
amazing.
Yeah.
So we decided to listen to 3 different tracks. These are not on albums. 2 of them come off of splits done with other bands. One of them was released as part of an EP,
an EP.
But you can find all of these as more or less as singles. The first one that I put on this list, and I selected these specifically because earlier this week I was really struggling with finding something I wanted to talk about.
We're doing this a day late.
Yeah, we're doing this a day late because I was just not feeling good for obvious reasons. Sure. And I couldn't find any sort of music that I felt was compelling, and I wanted to find something that was cathartic and I felt like was, uplifting in a way and was going to feel triumphant. And all 3 of these songs came to mind for different reasons, and bringing it some sense of catharsis to this week, because Jesus Christ. So the first song that I listened to, I listened to these, I guess, in the same order a whole bunch of times. In order of release, actually, is how I listened to them.
Okay.
So there's Hakan's
song. Oh, yeah.
Hakarl's song. That's a great song. A great subject for a metal song is the taste of Hakarl.
Oh, yeah.
Rotten fish and piss.
Yeah, rotten shark. Yeah.
Rotten shark and the smell of piss. Which I guess is just synonymous with the smell of that specific shark. Well, it's not rotten; it's fermented.
Right. And they're a type of shark that's heavy in ammonia anyway.
It's the Greenland shark,
right? Which they will essentially live forever. If they're not chopped up into Hakarl.
There is a Greenland shark. I think you can find videos of it on YouTube and whatnot, but there's a Greenland shark that they estimate to be like 300 years old or some shit.
Sure.
They're a very long-lived species that typically lives very deep in the ocean. And because they live so deep, that is why their flesh contains lethal amounts of ammonia.
Right. Lethal for us.
Yeah, lethal for us. And that's why they have to let it ferment, is it takes the however long it is that they have those chunks of shark and let them ferment. That's how long it takes for the amounts of ammonia to reach safe and consumable levels for a human being.
Safe levels of ammonia to eat.
Yeah, because that was kind of the reality of living in Iceland for nearly a millennia.
Sure.
Was if you want to live here, you're going to have to eat some whack shit because nothing really grows here all that well.
Well, that's what lutefisk was. It's
yep.
They made lutefisk, and now yes, we're gonna have our Hustfest, our celebration of Norse culture. Let's eat lutefisk, and I gotta imagine Norwegians are just going,
"Why are you eating that?
Why are you eating that? We didn't want to eat that.
We ate that because we had to." But anyway, no, Hakan's song was the first one that I listened to in the little playlist I made. This is, out of the three we listened to, probably the most upbeat throughout.
Yeah. Beautiful song.
It's a beautiful song. Hakan is Austin's oldest son.
Yep.
And the song was just written about him, for him, essentially. There's a beautiful segment in the middle with this very, very pretty, clean guitar over sounds of what I just imagine was Austin's living room. And he just set a mic up while they were playing. And it's just the beautiful sounds of a child's laughter, which is not something that you expect to hear in a atmospheric black metal track.
It adds dynamic.
Yeah. And like the end of it is so beautiful, but it like the entire last half of the song is so beautiful, but in a way that I think only people who listen to and like metal would find it pretty.
Sure.
The songwriting is just so, the songwriting is very strong on all of these. And the lyrics, I don't know if the lyrics for any of these are all that available. A lot of Panopticon lyrics are deliberately obscure and are not really available for certain things. I think the lyrics for most of the songs on Autumn Eternal, I think they're on the slipcover because I have the vinyl for that. I think those are available, but
and he does bury his vocals sort of in the mix.
Yeah, they're kind of buried deep in there. But the last half is basically a lot of refrains of him just saying all that I hope for you is just to watch you grow, and basically saying I hope that these things are not obstacles to you, that things don't deter you, that things don't set you back. I think a very beautiful song from a father written for his son. I think it's beautiful, it's warm, it's uplifting, it's the sort of thing that I found very comforting. And that's part of why I put it on here. Some of the, and for a while, at least until I listened to Rune's Heart, I thought it was probably one of Austin's best produced tracks as well. Just because he tends to do a lot of production and mixing more or less himself, some help here and there, but a lot of it's fairly DIY stuff. And that's that's the black metal aesthetic.
Sure.
Is
that's how you do
it yourself. And I think he's gotten progressively better and better and better at self-recording and self-producing, as one would hope. And none of it, none of it ever loses the humanity of it. Everything's just a little bit. Nothing's perfect, which is good. I think that would harm the character of the music, as well as if everything was perfectly, recorded and every note and every beat was exactly where it's supposed to be. There's something to be said for that. And I don't, it's not that I don't enjoy music where that is a factor of it. I love Dream Theater, and that's about as perfect as you can get without it being made in a computer. But God, I love that. I love that first song. I love all these. These are all
I didn't listen to the same order you did.
What order did you listen to?
I listened to Rune's Heart, then Hot Carl's song.
Hot Carl
song. And then I listened to Rusty Trombone's song, and then I listened to, and then after that it was
the Crescendo.
Crescendo Dusk.
So that was the next one that I listened to. This
Crescendo
is
Dusk.
By far the moodiest song on here.
The vocals in here just threw me for a loop.
They're
fantastic.
Tripping. This is, I think, the only song in his discography that I can think of that comes to mind where there is clean vocals on it that are that are atmospheric. They're just there to provide atmosphere. There's a whole section in the latter half of the song that is just
like 5 minutes long.
Chanting. Yeah. It's like this atmospheric chanting.
It's like this deep, really
this deep kind of like Nordic chant. The song is about the Northern Lights. That's what's featured on the cover.
Crescendo at Dusk,
is about the Northern Lights. And it's just this very sort of reflective kind of wondrous, I imagine myself listening to that and looking up at the sky and seeing that. I don't think I've ever actually, despite living in the northern United States.
You've never seen the Northern Lights?
I don't think I've ever actually seen, especially not with the level of vibrancy that one could see them if I was in northern Canada or Alaska or Scandinavia.
I see them here. Well, I used to live outside of town here, and you go outside, you go, my God, it's like daytime. It's this, the Northern Lights are just fantastic here.
I think part of it is just I've never. A good way to see them is basically they're predicting a sun flare. They're predicting a solar flare.
But Washburn's not that far south of here. And there's not a whole lot of lights there.
I haven't really made a habit of going outside at 3 a.m. most of my life.
Well, yeah, but you could see them at 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I guess. I suppose you could see them during the summer too, but yeah. Also during the summer, it doesn't get dark until 11:30.
Right. Which is why I don't understand those movies in the park thing. Here, we're going to show a kids movie during the summer. Bring your blanket. We're going to watch a movie at
9 o'clock. It's still broad daylight.
We're going to have your small children watching Shrek here at fucking midnight.
It's to have it at a reasonable time. It's you can barely see the screen because of the glare.
From the sun.
Yeah. I guess if you're having it in the park, there's plenty of shade.
Yeah, kind of.
There's a lot of, if it's an Oak Park.
Yeah. Or even Roosevelt.
There's lots of trees.
Yeah.
So that should probably help. But yeah, I don't think I cannot think of a time where I saw the Northern Lights or at least saw them with enough clarity to be a notable and important event to me.
Really?
Which is
a lot of times just living here, just going out in my backyard, just looking up and going, fuck.
When I was in
forever.
When I was in college, especially my freshman year, I went outside late at night quite often. Just on campus because it's a very safe campus. There's there's blue lights all over the place.
There
are. There's also lights all over the place, which probably didn't make it any easier to see something going on in this. But I would stargaze what I could see. Mm-hmm. I liked doing that, but I haven't done that in quite some time. Mostly because I have to get up in the morning now. Whereas there was long periods of time when I was in college where I didn't have to get up until noon. I would love to do that some point. Like next time there's a solar flare, I need to like make a note and be like, go outside and just look at the sky and see what you can see.
Sure.
And I think part of the problem maybe is like there are most of the time where it's like, oh, there is an aurora tonight, technically, but your eyes cannot discern it with the same clarity as like certain cameras, right? That are have the correct settings can
binoculars
make them look much brighter than they are. But then again, there are also places probably further north where they are incredibly vibrant.
Oh, sure. If you're in Alaska or Nunavut or
hell, even if you're in England, I am because I always forget how much further north England actually is.
It is, yeah.
England is further north than we are.
Yeah.
It's just that they're also on the tail end of the Atlantic current, so it's also a lot warmer than we are.
Well, you know, we're north of New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but you look at the map of the United States, it's this thing that's straight across.
Yeah.
Well, it's not straight across. It's tilted down a bit.
Yes. Well, and like part of the reason our climate here sucks so much is because we are also thousands of miles away from any large body of warm salt water.
Right.
Fact, we have the same problem as Siberia.
We're about as far from the ocean as you can get in North America.
Yes. But Northern Lights, cool, great. It's a great song. And despite being like the moodiest and overall the darkest, it's not compared to the rest of them. I wouldn't say it's the darkest. There are definitely points in Rune's Heart that are
very dark,
darker than any point on the Crescendo of Dusk. But it's moodier for most of it, and but it still manages to come back at the end being a fairly comfort and kind of triumphant and cathartic experience.
It is, yeah.
All three of these songs are a microcosm of all the things that I love about Panopticon. And I think just metal in general. I made a Facebook post about Rune's Heart yesterday where I basically said the same thing, which was like, this is so much of what I love about this band and about metal is like so many different textures and feelings and emotions that you can pack into it, where it's so much more than just like, this is heavy, dude.
Sure.
It's fuck yeah, Pantera. Fuck yeah. It's like there's so much more to it that I would love to share more actively with people who don't think of themselves as metalheads or think of themselves as people who enjoy it. It's just, I don't know quite how to elocute that to them, that you know, this stuff makes me feel this way, and you can too.
Yeah.
But so Rune's Heart is the last one I listened to. This came out earlier this year, and the backstory of it is, I think, so important to any listening of it. So about, I think it was 2 years ago at this point, his youngest son, whose name is Rune, they discovered during a checkup of some kind that he had a rare heart condition. I think there was something wrong with his valves, essentially, in his heart. And it was something they didn't know about. He was 2 years old already at this point and seemed to be very strong, healthy 2-year-old boy.
Sure.
Didn't seem like there was anything wrong with them.
And then suddenly your whole life as a parent gets turned upside down when you find out that your kid is essentially walking around with a time bomb in their chest. And so they, found out that they were going to have to do surgery. And originally they thought it was going to be fairly non-invasive. And then they found out that it was going to have to be full open heart surgery. And that is something that I cannot begin to fathom how incredibly terrifying that is. I don't have kids. I cannot begin to imagine how utterly terrifying that is to any parent. But I think the song does sonically represents that there is this, the opening riff essentially is this just horrifying, twisting, spiraling,
black metal riff. It's one of the most sinister and evil sounding riffs I think I've ever heard in his discography.
Yeah, well, because it starts out with the heart monitor.
Yes.
And the respirator, whatever. You can kind of hear both. And the sudden is and it really just goes into it, and it really is. You're right.
Smashes right into it.
Yeah.
And it is one of the out of his discography, one of the things that is closest to mainline black metal,
right?
Being sinister and chaotic and frightening, because that's what he and his wife felt.
Terror
is just the complete terror of there being something wrong, potentially fatally wrong with your child, and having no control over it whatsoever.
Here's this person that I love way more than I love myself, and this person could just die any second because they have a condition.
Yeah.
That goes beyond fear. If I'm in a plane crash and it's just me in that plane crash going, I'm scared. Not as scary as the idea of your child being killed.
Absolutely. There's a TV trope, because I love the website TV Tropes.
Yeah.
One of them they call is adult fear, which is like, it's different from regular fear. Adult fear involves like anything to do with your children.
Right.
That is the adult fear, where it's like, I don't care what happens to me anymore as long as they're okay.
Right.
I don't give a shit what happens to me.
Yeah. It's no longer important.
Yeah. I am not the most important person in this room anymore, and that's all right.
Right.
But like it's just the opening part, and once it transitions, this song has a couple of very, very hard breaks between like the riffs and sections, which I think it kind of as a representative piece of like of what his family was going through, I think makes sense to me as like moment to moment how hard the division between like events and feelings can seem when it's like, okay, this terrifying thing is happening and now we have a new piece of news and everything's changed. Everything's completely different than it was 2 seconds ago.
Sure.
And after that original, like just breakneck and terrifying riff is something that's quite a bit more moodier. It's still dark. But eventually it gives way to the only one of these three songs that has an acoustic section.
Right. And singing.
And that's a part of Austin's discography that I have not delved into too much, is his just straight up bluegrass stuff.
Sure.
There's a couple of songs in that section that I like, but generally I don't find Austin's clean singing to be all that compelling to me, just because he has a very rough voice.
Sure. It's not meant for.
His songwriting and instrumentation is gorgeous. His voice is not pretty.
He's never going to make the stage at the Met.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And I think for the way he writes bluegrass, he writes very, very moody blue. It's not, knee slapping, hold down type bluegrass.
This is not Flat and Scruggs.
This is, this is dark, depressed coal miner bluegrass, basically.
Like, what was that? Blackwater. Yeah.
I don't know.
But Panopticon?
Blackwater? Yeah, on Kentucky.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that song? It's Blackwater and something else.
Damn, yeah.
Body. Well, I was just thinking of Bodies Behind the Falls, but that's I think that's one of the black metal tracks off of Kentucky. But there is this acoustic section that just has just beautiful. It's just acoustic guitar, and I think maybe a little bit of keyboard in there. I think no, it was just acoustic guitar and drums, is what it was.
Right. And there's a bit of a lead in there, yeah.
By the way, the drumming on Rune's Heart is, I think, the best drumming that Austin has done, because he's multi-instrumentalist. He plays every instrument. I think the drumming is probably the most precise drumming that he's done. All in all, I think Rune's Heart is the best song of his career, to be honest.
Wow.
I think it's his best track.
And it's most recent.
Yeah, it is. It is his most. I think he around the same time that this came out, there was a like acoustic EP or album that he had released that I didn't listen to too much of. But I think this is, at the very least, as far as tracks that represent his entire discography, like it's got the it's got the black metal, it's got the acoustic stuff in it together. I think it's the best and most representative work, the best representation of everything that is Panopticon. It's got so many emotions. It is so cathartic. It is so eventually uplifting.
By the end of it.
It's if someone's like, what is Panopticon? I was like, do you have 20 minutes to listen to one song?
It's called Rune's Heart. But his other son, both two of these songs on this list are about his sons. About
his kids, which I think for anybody who's doing art, and anybody that's making art, I think that's probably your family is probably a very big source of inspiration one way or the other.
Sure.
Your loved ones, I think, are probably going to have a very big influence on your work. But eventually, the terror and the sheer horror of everything that's happening in the track subsides. There is a period where that opening spiraling riff comes back for a second because his son made it through the surgery just fine, but there was like a month there where there were complications, and they had
because he had to stay.
Yeah, he had to stay in the hospital for quite some time, and they had to change his diet significantly to where there were points where he was basically begging for solid food.
Sure,
and they couldn't give it to him. To the point where Austin had said in the notes, you can find the full story about the song on Bandcamp, but he said in the notes there that basically once they finally took him home, that he had like severe anxiety about food,
like
for
PTSD.
Yeah, basically seeing a 2-year-old with PTSD about like different foods, because he also had it for like 4 months. He had to eat a very low fat diet. He wasn't allowed to eat anything fatty because it's an issue with your heart. But eventually it gives way to some of the most just triumphant and anthemic and just after so much pain and fear in this track, it resolves to just something that just feels so victorious. It's exactly what I needed this week.
Right.
And it has brought me so much comfort over the last couple of days. All three of these songs have just brought me so much comfort because this week has just fucking sucked.
Right.
This is what I needed. And I'm glad this exists. I'm glad Panopticon exists. I'm glad that Rune is doing well. He's 4 years old now. And apparently healthy as an ox. So I'm very happy.
I've seen a picture of his dad. His dad is a little ox-like as well.
Austin,
a little bit.
Austin Lunn's dad?
Yeah. No, Austin.
Oh.
I'm talking about Austin himself.
Yeah, no, Austin's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's a big bearded fella. Built like a house. Basically, he looks like the human version of a Norse longhouse. Basically,
yeah.
He looks like a Viking,
and he has a brewery.
Yes, if you ever are in the Minneapolis area,
it's
check
not
out,
in Minneapolis. It's near Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's near Minneapolis, the northern side of the cities. Check out Hammerheart Brewing Company, I think is what it's called.
Yeah,
or Hammerheart Brew Pub or something like that. There's a pub set or a tasting section where you can go in and have some of his beer. I don't know exactly what restrictions are going on at the moment in Minnesota, but it's good beer from what I hear. And a beautiful brewery is also what I hear. I've seen some pictures of the inside and it's good. Lots of carved wood.
Wow.
And there's Norse and Celtic runes all over the place. It looks gorgeous in there. I'm happy that it occurred to me to talk about these songs.
Me too. We were going to talk about something else, and we didn't do it.
We were going to talk about. There's an album called Spiritual Instinct by a French band called Alceste that also does like atmospheric black metal, but they're a lot more shoegazy, and they have a lot more in common with a band like Deaf Heaven.
Oh, sure. Which are good.
Alceste is great. I love Alceste, but this I was just not feeling compelled by it at all this week. And it was like something that I just kind of settled on. I was like, we could talk about this. It's kind of new. We'll talk about it at some point.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to talk about something that felt like a win, something that made me feel better. And it has. Every time I've listened to these 3 tracks, I come out on the other end feeling like I've gotten out of a rut. And inevitably a couple hours later, I end up back in it, but it's nice to not feel like shit for a few hours.
Good to have that reprieve.
Yeah, for at least a couple hours to not feel like ass. So next week, what are we planning on talking about?
Well, remember we talked about this. I mean, there's something we've never talked about.
We made a deal.
We made a deal because I was talking about.
Not that I needed to be convinced.
No, I was talking to my teenager, and I was almost just feeling over emotional talking about the importance of one specific album as far as metal goes over the last however long metal has existed, 50 years of metal. This album has meant more to me than many, and this also has meant more to a lot of people than any other.
Yes.
Going back to 1986.
Just say it.
Rain and Blood.
Rain and Blood by Slayer. An album talking about it that almost brought OJ to tears, despite the fact that it has songs like Raining Blood and Angel of Death on it. It's a very important, it's an incredibly important album.
There's a religious song on there called Jesus Saves.
Yeah. Where Tom Araya, really demonstrates to us that how much of a good Catholic boy he is.
Altar of Sacrifices, great song.
Yeah. And
Very sweet.
It's a quick album too.
It is 26 minutes long.
Yeah, it's a quick listen.
10 songs, 26 minutes.
Slayer. We'll talk it so next week.
Recorded and produced by one of the biggest names in hip hop. Rick Rubin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sure. I mean, Rick Rubin's done a lot of, as far as I know, he's done a lot of a fair amount of non-hip hop stuff. I know Rick Rubin, though, he did like NWA, didn't he? Or was that him?
Maybe he did NWA. I know he did.
Was he played by Paul Giamatti in Straight Outta Compton? That was not him?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. I'll have to look that up later. Who Paul Giamatti played, and I might be remembering that completely incorrectly. I was about to say, like, was it Steve Albini?
He's also recorded some. Wow, we should do we should do a Big Black song. Songs about fucking. We should do that at some point.
That's going to be my least favorite episode. You know how
I wouldn't call that metal. I'd call that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd call
mean,
that.
you know how oddly uncomfortable sexual content makes me when I'm listening to music. I don't know why.
There isn't a whole lot of sexual content. I mean, it's just on the cover. It's got this
dirty.
It's got a pop art picture of a woman who's clearly, getting it, and from some angle, and the songs are like Bad Penny and stuff like. And there's not a whole lot of sexual content. It's just Steve Albini screaming at you,
I guess. That's part of the reason why I just was not particularly fond of
Typo Negative
and Cradle of Filth.
Sure. A lot of sexual content in there.
There's a lot of just like, I don't know why. I'm not prudish like about literally anything else, but when it's like a gothic metal song about fucking, it's like, ugh, it makes me feel nasty.
I'm uncomfortable.
I need an adult.
Someone hold my hand.
I don't know why that makes me uncomfortable. But I guess it's just a space that I don't associate. Sure. Like it's one of to me, metal is like one of the only pieces of media that is not overly sexualized.
Sure.
And it's mostly because metal is primarily performed by a bunch of big sweaty dudes.
What the hell band was I was listening to an interview. It had to have been back in the late 80s, maybe early. No, it was late 80s, definitely. I know who it was. It was a Canadian band, Jeff Waters. I
don't know.
Oh my God, am I forgetting my brain? I can't brain today.
Is Jeff Waters related to John Waters?
No, not at all.
From Baltimore?
Anyway, they were doing an interview and they said, yeah, actually it's great. You meet a lot of people. And they're saying, wait, what about girls? This is thrash metal. If you're into dudes, it's okay.
Yeah. If you're into bears,
yeah.
if you want twinks, well, the hair metal concert's just over there. I guess that's where the chicks would be too. Is at the
sure they would concert. Also be there, but I mean, as far as visual acuity, I mean. Yeah, it's sort of a crapshoot on what's going to happen once the fly comes down. I mean,
what is that? Was that Steven Tyler or who made the joke? The song "Dude Looks Like a Lady" is about Motley Crue.
About Vince Neil, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, end of the episode time.
Sure.
So check us out on Facebook, Twitter. We post episodes there when they come out. We don't post anything else. Because I can't be bothered to fuck around with social media.
No.
We just post new episode links.
You all right?
It's good beer.
It is.
This was, we had Greenway Double India Pale Ale.
Uh-huh.
Delicious stuff. I love me an IPA.
By the Rhombus Brothers.
The Rhombus Brothers.
Rhombus Guys.
Sorry. The Rhombus Guys, yes. Yeah. If we ever do a Napalm Death, you have to bring this back.
Sure. Greenway. So for Barney.
I mean, there is a new album or was it a new single? There's new Napalm Death out there. And it sounded pretty fucking good.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was an interview with Barney here recently. Just great. It was just like 20-minute interview. And he's just a regular guy from Birmingham, England.
Yep. He doesn't even have like the metal haircut anymore. He just has regular looking haircut.
Yeah. Regular dude.
As far as I can remember, he doesn't have very many tattoos either.
Not a lot, no.
He's like, Barney could very easily pivot into a regular sort of job and no one would ever know that he used to be the front man for like the biggest grindcore band ever.
I can imagine him being in the office there and some, fellow coworker who's, part of the HR team having to deal with other employees. I don't know how to deal with other employees. I don't know how to deal with their problems as far as human resources go. And Barney going, just ask them one question. You suffer.
But why? See, but that was off of Scum, and that was before Barney joined the band. You Suffer was not on.
No, that was not him.
That was
He's
not
done
Barney.
It in concert.
Yes, well, they're probably.
Is it Lee Dorian?
I think so. Yeah. That's probably Napalm Death's most popular song. And most well-known song.
Less than 2 seconds long.
Yeah, it's like a second and a half long. I think it holds the world record for the world's shortest song, and nobody else has really bothered to try.
There's actually a girl on YouTube who does covers on harp. Actually covered that. It was great.
There's some chick who's been doing hurdy-gurdy covers, or not covers, but she did one where it was Gojira riffs on hurdy-gurdy, and it sounded awesome. And the way you do like start and stop, like palm muted riffs on hurdy-gurdy is really interesting. Just check that. Just check out, search Gojira riffs on hurdy-gurdy. It's cool shit.
I'm doing that when I get home.
Okay. I mean, I could just, you're probably getting, it's 8:30 already. So it's time for us to end. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kayle.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.